For Creamer Media's Polity, I'm Shannon de Rehove. Helen Bombassis, an Education Project Director at the South African Institute of Chartered Accountants, joins me to discuss the changing landscape of adult learning. Welcome, Helen. Now, firstly, can you tell me why you believe it is necessary to change the method of assessment in the qualification process in students who are studying to become a CA?
The South African Institute of Chartered Accountants, Sokka, is ranked number 3 worldwide with respects to the production of our chartered accountants. In order for us to remain relevant and competitive, not only on our local shores but globally as well, it is necessary for us to reassess how we go about assessing our future CAs and future leaders.
When do you think adults learn best?
There have been various learning models around adult learning that have come into fruition, although there's been a lot of debate around the validity and the actual valuation around those learning models. One of them that's come to light is the one produced by the NTS Institute of Human Behavioral Sciences. And what they've done is they've put a learning pyramid together, where at the bottom of the pyramid we note that adults learn and retain 5% of information if they actually hear the information. So that would be through a lecture. On the flip side, right at the top scale of that pyramid, 90% of that information is retained by adults when they are teaching somebody or something like on-the-job training. Now, the interesting part about that entire pyramid is you cannot take that in isolation, because if we have to take in factors such as how much does a topic actually interests an adult, perhaps you would retain a lot more than just 5% in a lecture. So that's led to a lot of modern sort of theories, specifically around blended learning, where you start combining various methods of learning for adults, which includes perhaps a bit of face-to-face lecturing time, along with digital media and technology and online learning, along with on-the-job coaching. So it's a whole array of just blending a lot of methods in order to ensure that adults actually learn.
How has Sokka implemented this particular model into the processes or education delivery model that it uses?
Sokka is trying to remain relevant, and part of being relevant, we need to actually look at innovative and creative means in terms of how do we sort of ensure that our aspiring CAs and our future leaders are as robust as possible. And part of that is we are incorporating specifically our second part of the examination process, of the board examination process, which is now going to be known as the assessment of professional competence. That's going to be a very different way of testing or assessing our candidates, partly because it's going to be based on real life case study. So what do we do in real life is you receive a set of facts in the business world. You perhaps have maybe 5 or 3 or 2 days leeway to actually go through those facts before you've now engaged in a meeting where you now need to go out and meet the client and discuss those facts. And that's exactly what we're doing. We're going to put a case study together, pre-release that case study information to our candidates 5 days before they have an assessment. That gives them a heads up with respects to going onto the internet and researching the type of industry, perhaps chatting with their colleagues and brainstorming. And then on the day of the assessment, we will release the required and probably a lot of extra facts with respects to perhaps changing a lot of the scenario or what is required for them to perform. So it is a bit of, once again, utilising the blended learning methodology, incorporating as much as different medium.
Now, finally, what advice would you offer to the education department in terms of adult learning?
I think times are changing, and they're changing fast. The educational department need to consider methods such as blended learning. Specifically, we saw a lot of matrics this year where there was a question that perhaps they had. There were chat rooms on WhatsApp. Notes were being taken on iPads. So it's definitely a different era that we are embarking in, and I would suggest that the education department potentially consider such methods.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Helen.
Thank you very much.
That was Helen Bombassis, Project Director of Education at Sokka, discussing the changing landscape of adult learning.